Okay, we are live. Um, we have a lot to get through, so let's go ahead and at the top of the hour, let's do it.
Oh,
Alrighty, I figured I would take the devil's lettuce picture down. That'll make a nice overlay. As a matter of fact, this was published by the Omaha World Herald, um, and I thought it was quite neat. As we know, the shape of the state of Nebraska is rather iconic. The state uses it for everything,
yep.
and here is the devil holding lettuce in the state of Nebraska, and his tail is pointing down towards Kansas City, which I find interesting.
that's that's a nice.
Yeah,
So how do
shithole.
we how do we want to start this? Because holy fuck, it's been a
Well, I
week.
tell you, it's not over until the fat lady sings, and he's singing behind me here. So we'll go ahead and say that while I did not expect at all, I did actually, you know what? I have a background. Hold on here. I have a background for you, Jim. I'm hold on a minute.
While
I
you're
don't know
doing
where
that,
we.
I know where we can
Okay,
start.
because I don't know where
Let's
we. Okay, where are we starting?
let's talk about Destiny on Piers Morgan and this whole
Oh
economy
yes.
myth.
Okay. So I listened to the entire episode. I listen to Piers Morgan quite often,
Me
actually.
too.
And
Me-
what I have came to understand about Destiny, a little bit that I know about Destiny, is I guess you've compared him before to like a Ben Shapiro type,
He's
but
he's okay
I wouldn't
with
even
Ben
say that
Shapiro.
because
Yeah.
Ben does not lose as hardcore as I've seen this man lose. I have seen Gavin McGinnis rip Destiny apart. Destiny, by the way, um,
Has also said
he
he's going to
thinks
leave the country as well.
yes, and that Joe Rogan is a fascist and that he won't go
Of
on the
course.
show and the
Yep.
whole thing. The
Hmm.
open invitation for Destiny was there, and Destiny decided not to
Of
because
course.
he's just a condescending elitist bitch who these people don't live in the real world. And they get so idealistically isolated. I'm guessing he lives in Los Angeles, right? Destiny,
Oh,
I
no,
take it.
no, no. He actually lives in Omaha.
He lives in Omaha.
He lives in Omaha. I am not kidding. Unless he moved. The last I knew, he lives in Omaha.
Is he from Nebraska, Destiny, or is he was just in, or he just living there?
That I don't know, but for as long as I've known, I believe he's lived in Omaha for quite some time. Yeah.
And it doesn't
So if I
surprise
wanted
me.
to, so if somehow this podcast somehow reaches his attention, and one of us had to go up there and have a discussion with him in person, I'd probably be your man.
Here's the thing, though, man, is that there's no having a discussion with
Of
him. He's
course.
very smug. He's very dismissive. He speaks in absolutes. And I guarantee you, he's walking around and he's smug and shitty. And the old folks are like, look, we can't afford the groceries. But to have a all-out dismissal of any Trump policy or any right-leaning concern towards Trump is completely insane. Did you get your virtual background, by the way? I sent it to you if you wanted a green
Yeah,
screen
I
option.
I just got it. Yeah.
But just in general, the all out dismissal of why people are concerned, why people may not be voting for Trump, or why people may not have wanted to vote for Kamala, and voted Trump, or why people may genuinely. I've spoken to several people who have told me this. They genuinely dislike Donald Trump. They voted against Trump twice. They saw him as this misogynist, as this racist, as this sexual assailant, as this awful person. And whether or not, um, the essay stuff has been sort of kind of proven to be um, a little exaggerated as far as the court of law is concerned. But I don't think anybody is saying that Trump is not a smarmy guy. Okay, we know that he is a motherfucker at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But do I think that that is his business side? Do I take him to be a conniving businessman who's made billions of dollars, but also has a soft side where he won the election? The popular, the electoral, he dominated all night. He could have got on stage and delivered the biggest fuck you to the DNC that he wanted to. And instead, he proceeded to talk about his children for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I don't see where in that speech, in that acceptance speech, you get this tyrannical concept. I'm
Well,
not sure, where they're getting this from.
well, on top also, he was president for 4 years, and like I've said this before, if this man's a tyrant, he's the worst tyrant I've ever seen. I also have to add something else to this. So we're used to hearing the misogyny thing, the racism thing, the xenophobia thing, but now we're like doing this thing of, oh, you voted for Trump, you're uneducated. Now we're gonna play that game. The
Right.
you're just a dumb Neanderthal schmuck who doesn't know any better. It's just like, I'm sorry that people weren't interested in just abortion and that Orange Man is bad. I'm sorry that people were considering the border crisis, shit with the FDA and like health concerns, just other things like that. Like I'm sorry that or stuff that regards like stuff with children with the trans stuff and things like that. I'm sorry other people had other concerns that weren't just Orange Man bad. By the way, we've heard for like 8 years, so I don't know why we thought that that was by itself going to be good. And
Right.
even if Kamala was elected in there, and same thing goes for Trump. Roe v. Wade is out of the hands of the federal government; it's in the hands of the state. What do you like? What do you want to do there? Do you
You
expect
know,
Kamala to just reach out and be like, "No, it's going back to the federal level"? Like, what do you expect to happen? Like, stop.
right. And you know what else? So I don't want to bounce around. I want to be very careful with how this show goes tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
However, okay. Um what I really do believe is that what I really do believe is we are in this age of, if you don't like someone, the last thing you're going to do is platform them. And because of that, I don't think that most people who have a true um, malcontention towards Donald Trump would have any interest in anything that he had to say. They considered his chances of winning to be slim to nil. They knew, based on their favorite political pundits and their talking heads on TV, how tyrannical he is and how vindictive of a person he is. So why bother listening to anything he has to say? Meanwhile, he doubled down on his comments that he made during the pandemic. White supremacists, white nationalists, KKK, neo Nazis, these far rightists that are not associated with him. He has made it crystal clear that there is no association. He said they should be condemned.
I'm
And
pretty
when
sure
we
one
were
of his. I'm pretty sure one of his kids said that David Duke or someone like that could catch a bullet in his head or some shit like that.
right, exactly,
Clear-
exactly.
They
So
clearly
this
don't. Yeah.
Right. So this idea that good people can't exist on both sides, and that we really were being gaslit into believing that this man was trying to convince us that Klansmen are good Samaritans. Like, no, that is in no way what was
Yeah.
happening. That's in no way what was said. And the fact that um Kamala wasn't giving us anything. We don't got to spend all night on politics. I do want to move on to other things later, and I know that you have to make your piece.
Oh yeah.
But, I want to finish what I'm saying,
Of
and I
course.
want to throw it over to you.
Yeah.
I really think that, well, for one, the grand old party is not the modern day conservatism. It's not the thought process of young men, late 20s, into their mid 30s, early 40s, maybe even beyond that. Even guys like Joe Rogan, for an example, plenty of, just adult men that are, older. They probably don't have any hard feelings for homosexuals or intergender couples or anything like that. Oh shit, okay, well my father is here, and he's saying yeah, he lives in Nebraska, in terms of
That's what I thought. Yeah. So I was
yeah,
correct. Yeah.
yeah,
So he lives in.
yeah,
So he is in Omaha still. Yeah.
yeah. And here's the thing too, is that okay, the point that I was getting at was,
Yes.
most people that I have spoken to that voted for Donald Trump, they don't necessarily like everything about him. They will admit that there's a lot of shit that he did the first time around that soured them deeply, and they voted against him, but they had no other choice but to come back and reevaluate, or maybe be a first time voter for Trump. And also, I do want to point out this: the reason that the GOP is different than centrists, is different than young conservatives, is different than this new age of black conservatives, especially, is because this is a collection of primarily men who all used to be left leaning, you and I included, and we began to see the chinks in the armor. We began to see the doublespeak. We began to notice that casual conversation is off the table, and we had nowhere else to go. So when people like Destiny want to go on Piers Morgan, say any criticisms of the Democratic Party is ridiculous, you're just pathetic and you can't afford pork and beans or whatever, it's a complete slap in the face, and it proves the entire point of what we've been saying. That's really it. Is
Yeah.
that we are not the red hatters of 2016.
Yeah.
We want Trump because we want a change, because we want conservative values, and he's the one that's going to give it to us. Who we really want is JD. That'll be a story for a different time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But for now, we have to deal with another 4 years. But do you think that most people went on Kamala's site, saw all the Project 2025 stuff, solely focused on that, didn't listen to what else he had to say, and that's why they're so scared now?
Well, yeah. And here's the thing. Kamala was basically played off the fact that, and I don't like saying this about a group of people, but I'm going to say it. Kamala played off the fact that her audience was, or the people that support her, were intellectually lazy. They didn't read that book about Project 2025, even though it was free and anybody could read it. They didn't read the book. They just presumed that everything in there was rhetoric that Donald Trump had said and all this stuff, even though Donald Trump denounced it. And if you've actually read the book, you'll see that the book is actually leagues more extreme than Trump's policies. You got Trump and his
It's like
policies.
it's like a
You got
Tea
Trump and
Party
his
wish list.
Yeah. You got Trump and his policy saying that he's going to regulate government things. I mean the I'm sorry, I've lost agencies. Yeah, the agencies, and which that's just switching D's to R's. This book is saying get rid of the FBI, get rid of the the IRS, the CIA, stuff like that. I'm fine.
Nobody is looking to do this.
I
There's
mean,
no way.
I'd be fine with the IRS going away. I would be okay with that. But
I,
my the point that I'm getting at is that Kamala knew that that these individuals weren't going to read that book, and they were not going to look at Trump's policies and do cross comparison to see what was stacking up. Because had they had done that, they would have realized that they were being lied to,
right. But before she even had policies put on her website,
which is a
she
problem.
had this bogus P25 stuff attached. Okay, but
Yeah,
look, I want to make this very clear here. I am happy that we are going to get a turn in a different direction and values that I consider traditional, but I am not as gung ho about Trump in the sense of the deity that he became back in 2016. That crowd is kind of gone. That crowd may have died off. That crowd is older now. They're not as vocal. We're not worrying about all of the extremist shit. What we don't want to do is we don't want to be involved in war. We don't want to look, I have no problem with people migrating in this country, with international students studying in this country, with people wanting to move here and run restaurants and run businesses and live. I don't think any of us have a problem with that. But it's the unvetted nature of what's going on, all of the vouchers that are going out, the fact that clinics and uh, from what I've understood, homeless shelters and women's shelters and food banks have become overwhelmed. And when we say, deport these people, I honestly believe that there will be undocumented folks that will not be pushed away. It's more so the criminals, the people who have left jails and have migrated into the states and are now running gangs. That should be the priority. If there's some people that are undocumented and they're quietly working, as a gardener, leave that guy alone.
like to add to that, I will say that I do think the language around "let's get these fucking illegals around out of here" is not the best way to phrase it, but I do understand the sentiment of, even if you're coming to this country I want people to have a better life, but I understand people's suspicion when you're starting a new nationality, it's probably not wise to come in illegally and kind of break the law like that right off the bat. But I think there has to be a way that if someone did come in illegally and you find out they're not a criminal, you should have them, you know, immigrate into this country properly. You just have them go through the proper channels. And I think another way to stop with the whole like immigration thing is we've got to end the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Like we got to end. I like in the sense of like we got to. We got to like if I hope RFK is like we unleash that beast upon the FDA and big pharma and shit like that. We got to end the war on drugs, because if we end the war on drugs, then well, drug smuggling kingpins and shit like that aren't going to want to come into the country as much if we're not making that shit okay. If we start with the buck there, it's just going to be easier to manage because, like, don't get me wrong, like, I actually watched a podcast today. It's the Trigonometry podcast. They have Rob Schneider on today, and they talked about the section. He's a smart fucking dude. He's a smart guy. They're talking about how I think it was like one of the drug cartels made like it's like I think it was like $5 million, and then it was like Big Pharma made like it was something in the billions. It was a ridiculous amount. It's just like Big Pharma's making a killing compared to these drug smuggling kingpins and shit like that, and these cartels, and it's wild.
I'll give you a story. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out which medication that I'm going to be taking. And this particular medication that I was on previously, a side effect could be high blood pressure. So if I was experiencing high blood pressure, I would just assume not take the medication. Well, the physician that I was seeing that day said to me that if the medication raises your blood pressure, we will just put you on blood pressure medication.
And that's how they get you, and it's
Yeah, and
disgusting.
I'm not doing that shit, but
Yeah,
that's how it starts. So they're willing to just throw a 28-year-old guy that's of I would say standard health on fucking blood pressure medication because the medication that I would be taking for my anxiety would somehow mess with my blood pressure. Then just find a different medication for me. I'm you are what they are looking to do is they are looking. It's almost like when banks trick you into opening second and third and fourth accounts. It's the same way. We want to see how many prescriptions we can make off of you because the insurance is only going to pay so much. But and then I guess you'll have to decide whether you're going to take the medication. Hopefully, soon we won't be deciding if we have to take medication or if we have to forego groceries.
yeah.
But either way, these fucks are making money.
Hmm.
But on the other side of the coin is if we end the war on drugs, how do we determine how much fentanyl is on the street? How much ketamine is on the street?
I,
How would we get the deadly drugs off of the street and then begin having conversations about, I guess maybe like psychedelics and that sort of thing coming into the forefront.
I mean, that's I feel like that's going to be a more complicated step, but I feel like big pharma's like patient zero. If you don't assess patient zero, the virus will continue to spread. So I think you assess big pharma, you get them away, like you assess, like you deal with big pharma, you wean out all the people in the FDA that were completely compromised by it. I don't know if I would say scrap the FDA, but something there has to be done because the FDA is completely compromised by that. Look with all the shit they put in people's like food and all that crap. And when
Yeah,
it comes
yeah.
and when it comes to the drug stuff too, when I got into my wreck, they were trying to give me oxy, and I kept telling them no, and they kept on trying to push that shit on me. It's just like I don't want that shit, man. Like that shit's fucking like
Like post operation, they were trying to give you all
yeah, they
kinds
were
of
trying to,
yeah.
and I said, and they were like, well, I'm not sure if we have anything else. I said, well, it's either you get me something else, or I will. I literally said to them, I will suffer literal nerve pain over taking oxy because I do not want to get hooked. I don't want to be that guy that says I'm not really in pain. I want to take it because it's
Was
like
it
what
was yeah, was it
it's what
JD Vance that
JD
made the
Vance
comment
on
that
Theo
he
Vaughn's
he felt
podcast.
good he felt good when he took one? He was like, "Oh fuck, I can't do
He
this
was on
anymore."
yeah, he was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and him and his
Yeah.
wife were talking, and his wife
Hey, give me
said
a second. I can't look at Boogie's tits anymore. I gotta get this off the screen.
it's
Oh shit.
but
But continue talking. What were you saying?
yeah, but so I think we got because outside of New Zealand, we're the only other country in the world that does advertisements for pharmaceuticals, and it's fucking insane. And I made a bit out of it once. It was just like the doctor for my shitting problem prescribed me a medication that's just like side effects may include drowsiness, dizziness, high blood pressure, and death. And then they do a little doing the little dance in the background too. It's just like, oh,
I
I
want to
feel like
ask
I'm
my
having a heart
doctor,
attack.
how
Woo!
long do I have to take this medication before I'm running with my dog in the park and throwing frisbee with my grandchildren?
Let's
Because
hope.
every single fucking guy in these dude, what's so crazy is they paint the picture of this guy to be miserable and he's arthritic and everything. And then he's on this medication and suddenly he's having an ice cream and he's walking in the park and he's doing all this shit. I mean, it's insanity.
Yeah,
The
and that
propaganda of how good your life is going to be after taking Cymbalta or whatever. It's
yeah,
just it's bananas, man.
it, and that's why I'm saying that before, like with putting an end to the war on drugs, you got to start with big pharma because you can because if you try to clean up shit on the streets and all that and set up a process for that first, it's not going to mean anything if Big Pharma is just going to flush that shit back out there. So you have to start with patient zero, the origin of it. You get rid of them and get them off the board. I'm not saying that's going to be easy. They've made a fucking killing off of literally killing people. So I mean, they're not going. They're not going to. They don't want to go anywhere. But they got to
Yeah.
go.
And I think about this too. The more and more that I just, I get older and I think about, the future and whatever. Um, I've been really beginning to think there's no way that you take a hyperactive 6-year-old who's curious about the world and full of energy and mischievous and just unapologetically a child and say, well, they have ADD, so therefore we are going to give them a Ritalin and we are going to zombify them. And then we're going to sit them in a chair for 7 hours a day. And if that doesn't work, then we'll just up the dosage and we'll keep going until they pay attention. I just, the whole thing is ass backwards. Um, I really don't think that a 6-year-old kid needs any sort of substances.
No.
I was on medication at that age, and I just couldn't imagine having a 6-year-old of my own. And this is no fault to my mother because she was
Of course.
only doing what the medical professionals were telling her to do.
Yeah.
It was a very new thing, this ADHD.
Yeah.
But I just could not see taking my child and putting them on any of this medication and subjecting them to having these mood swings and dealing with all of that
Yeah.
at all.
Oh, it's yeah. I understand if they're hyperactive and they're full of energy. You want to find a way to. And the thing that kills me about stuff like Ritalin is it doesn't even help like elevate the mood or like level it out. It seems to produce the opposite effect. Now you're just completely. It's like you said, you're a zombie. You're just completely zonked out. It's just like, why would you want to be on the opposite end of that? Wouldn't you want to find a way that when someone's that hyperactive and full of energy, find a way to have them balance it? It's like I don't understand what the whole point of just like outside of just like some form of conditioning. Yeah, not only are we going to make you zombify, but we're going to have you sit in a chair for 6 hours and you're going to learn about basic history 101, Yankee Doodle Dandy, while you're just like,
Right. You know what? What if elementary schools were just completely shifted? What if instead of medicalizing children so that they will sit half comatose from 8 o'clock until 3:30? How about we do what everything? At first I was thinking that we don't need all these extracurriculars because test scores are so bad and et cetera, et cetera. But I have to eat my words a little bit. I really do think that the popular idea of enhancing music programs, of teaching gardening and greenhousing in school, of getting kids active, finding ways to teach that doesn't involve them sitting at a desk and doing nothing. I mean, yes, they will have years of their academic life where they do just that.
of course.
But there's a lot to be looked at. The Department of Education is probably going to have a review. I would assume that every branch of government will have a review under this regime, and
And
it's
as they
not
should.
going to be, but it's not going to be this, this, hacksaw sort of elimination that I
No,
think people are concerned about.
it's not in his policies. No, his policies have stated just regulation and stuff like that. But I agree that yeah, there are gonna be times where you need to have kids sit down to do their tests and shit like that and their homework and all that. But you need to offer a balance to where they're on their feet just as much. Like it's just you know, I feel like you have to bring back heavier disciplinary measures in schools too, because man, oh man, the clips that I see now of just like, don't get me wrong, when I was going to school, there were certainly rowdy kids, but teachers didn't, They didn't take that shit. Nowadays, it seems like teachers kind of just have to take that shit. Otherwise, well, that was a microaggression, or that was a macroaggression, or you're being oppressive, or just some like thing. It's just
So, I want to take a look at something here, Jim.
yes,
So, did you see the Bernie Sanders segment that he did with ABC News a few
I did,
days ago? You did?
I did.
Okay.
Yes,
Um, I would like us to look at it because I've seen pieces of it, and maybe this could be a nice little um, addition to this conversation.
yes.
Senator Bernie Sanders issued a scathing statement after the vice president's loss in what he called a disastrous campaign, saying, quote, "It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them." And independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont joins me now. Senator Sanders.
Dude,
I mean, that's the truth of it, though. That's absolutely
dude,
the truth. I mean, that's.
for all
I
the
mean, that's
all
why.
the shit
Look,
we give Bernie, this guy's not
I,
aging, is he?
well, no, look. I'll say this. I may have given him some shit, but if he had look, here's the thing. The advantage that he has over Hillary is that he would have had the populace on his side. If 2016 was Donald Trump versus Bernie Sanders, it would have been wild. That would have been a crazy year. It would have been insane.
And I really
That's
do
what.
think that Bernie would have taken the popular and the electoral. I
But
think he would have creamed Trump.
he pointed out that Hillary lost. That's one of the reasons why Hillary lost the election, because she lost the working class. And in the case of Kamala, I don't think she lost the working class. I don't think she had the working class on her side to begin with. You can't lose somebody that you never had. And to add to this conversation, Rob Schneider brought up a quote of, um, "The left has the left is so far gone they've left the country behind." And I mean, who
Yeah,
would?
yeah, they
I
really
mean,
have. Something that is also very true with that, and of course, Rob Schneider being a celebrity, maybe this comes across as ironic. But when I was a kid, and we'll listen to what Bernie is going to say here in just a second. But
of
when I was a kid, my mom was not a fan of Bush. She was not a fan of Mitt Romney or any. She always voted Democrat. She voted Obama twice. She was never a fan of Bush. I do believe she supported John Kerry back in 2004.
yeah,
Before that, I was too young to remember.
of
But she voted for Trump all three times. And what I really do believe happened was that Republicans used to be for the rich people and Democrats were for the everyday person. Somewhere along the line, all of these Hollywood endorsements, all of the mainstream media getting the television rights deals that they are. Now, these news anchors are making millions of dollars. They are living in the same neighborhoods in the Hamptons as these other celebrities. So now they're all hobnobbing on television and they start talking about the uneducated demographic as being Republicans. So now this is the elitist class. This is it. The class of scientists and PhD holders and celebrities, not people that wake up and look. I am not saying that white collar workers are not hard workers. Okay, I'm kind of one foot into that door. Believe me. But there are so many more blue collar workers in this country, or just retail workers, or people that don't have the luxuries that all of these fucking celebrities have, that just see the world differently. And now the paradigm has shifted so far that I'm not quite sure what the left really stands for anymore. I'm not sure who their demographic is. I don't think they know who it is.
the in my the way I look at it is that the traditional left, which is what I believe was the sensible left, and that was, pretty much anyone who is a sensible Democrat is either voting Trump, has left the party to become a Republican, or is independent. Like that's that's the state of the party. The radical leftists and the far leftists got what they wanted. The sensible left-leaning people are either voting for anyone but the DNC nominated rep, or is just completely abandoning the party. And they have every right to. I agree with the description of the video that Americans have a right to be angry, and they do. They have every right to be angry. A party that's just it's just insane, man. But
Welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here on this Sunday after Election Day. Let's start right there. Your criticism, incredibly direct. You say you think the Democratic Party has, quote, abandoned the working class. How exactly do you think Democrats have abandoned the working class, Senator?
Look, the working people of this country are extremely angry. They have a right to be angry. In the richest country in the history of the world, today, the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And millions of families worry that their kids are actually going to have a lower standard of living than they do. You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%. We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all of our people. 25% of our seniors are trying to live on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And the gap between the people on top and everybody else is getting wider and wider. And then, Kristen, on top of all of that, we got a corrupt campaign finance system, which allows billionaires to buy elections. So if you're an average worker out there, you're saying, hey, I'm working longer and longer hours, going nowhere in a hurry, worried about my kids, and yet the people on top have never had it so good. Where is the Democratic Party? Are they prepared to stand up to these powerful corporate interests, raise the minimum wage, fight for health care for all people, make sure that all of our kids get the quality education that they need, expand Social Security? Are they prepared?
I don't want to cut Bernie off mid-thought, but I'm starting to understand now why big corporations do the rainbow flag every June.
well,
Because as long as they kowtow to every, subcategory of the Democratic Party, they will never be held accountable for any of the stuff that Bernie's talking about right now.
well, that and businesses are capitalist here in this country, so they know that they can make a quick buck off of that. But the other thing I want to add to is that he mentions what the traditional left stood for is that society and structures at time are going to disadvantage people. You're going to have people who are disadvantaged, and society at times, whether it means to or not, has discriminated against people. And traditional liberal values has stood against providing systems and ways for people to keep a leg up so they don't sink under and sink beneath. That traditional liberal party is gone. Like that traditional, like the traditional liberal shit that provide that had that sense of compassion, that sense of like genuineness and stuff like that. And it's not to say that conservative values don't have that sense to it, but it's now that the way that the Democratic Party looks now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems to be now full of malice, spite, resentment, hatred. We're gonna run these and I know conservatives do it too, but it really is just we've taken the mudslinging and now it's just like it's just
This is what I think a lot of it really is. We haven't even talked about the 4 beers tonight.
yeah.
But do I think that extent is a minority on the left? I do. But I also believe that there are so many loyal vote blue no matter who Democrats who just believe that everything that the left, that the Democratic Party, everything that their senators, that their leaders, and that their candidates are advocating for, they blindly trust them because it was very identity politic driven. You know, her being a black woman, her being the first woman, her being the first woman of color, you know, all of this. And then that's why for Trump, it was, oh, you know, these must be, you know, these white, racist, basement dwelling guys, because they wanted to so desperately characterize everybody that was looking at Trump in one way because they were selling this idea of Kamala. And that's another place that really goes bad. And you make a good point too. Yes, of course, Pepsi and Chevrolet and Frito Lay and all these fucking companies, whether they be cars or consumer goods, food and beverage, everybody does the LGBT pride stuff, not just for the quick buck, like you said, but two, I also believe that virtue signaling goes that deep. Okay. When you have, let's just say Mark Ruffalo for a second. When you have Mark Ruffalo being, you know, this bleeding heart liberal talking out of his ass about Jews and everything else, and then you see Mark Ruffalo in an ad for Pepsi, and then Pepsi puts out the rainbow logo, you're not going to question whether or not if Pepsi is getting billions of dollars from the Democrats or billions of dollars from the Republicans. You're not looking into that. You're just seeing, oh, look at this. This brand represents me. So then you throw it into your grocery cart every week at the store.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, it's marketing. It's
Yeah.
market. It's marketing 101. I have my demographic in mind. I decide how I want to market it, and then boom, profit. And the same people who hate capitalism, it seems for that month, seem to forget that capitalism is a thing and doesn't mind throwing these companies a ton of fucking money.
Right.
It's wild.
Well, let's hear a bit more what Bernie is saying here.
To do those things. That's the issue that we have to address.
Well, as you know, your statement was met with some sharp reaction as well. This is what Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi had to say. Take a look. I'll get your
I forgot that she's even still around.
reaction on the other side.
Bernie Sanders has not won. Let me, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for him for what he stands for, but I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families.
When's the last time you worked?
Well, here's the other thing. Let me translate what this statement says. Bernie, with all due respect, I disagree with your statement because you're lying.
You have a penis.
Yeah, and you look like one of the Muppets that hangs up in the top gallery.
What they're trying to say is, Bernie has not won. The quiet part was said out loud. You tried to run, they didn't want you. They told you that they didn't want you, and now you're just throwing a temper tantrum because you weren't wanted.
I do you one better. Hey, Nancy, Bernie didn't win, but I bet you if you did a poll of who people would rather have for president, Bernie fucking Sanders or Nancy Pelosi, who do you think would win that little fucking?
Bernie.
100%. He didn't win. Get the fuck
100%.
out of here,
Nancy Pelosi.
Bitch.
Senator, how do you respond to Nancy Pelosi?
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine, and we've worked together on many issues. But here is the reality. I have to say to Nancy, in the Senate in the last 2 years, we have not even brought forth legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, despite the fact that some 20 million people in this country are working for less than $15 an hour.
Yeah, see, this is where I disagree with Bernie Sanders. He's so gung-ho about minimum wage going up. Minimum wage in Maryland is $15 an hour, and it was the most retarded thing they could ever have passed. Because the higher that you raise minimum wage, the harder that you have to work to feel like you're getting any type of reward.
Well,
And really,
that and like think of it like this. If minimum wage starts going up and I'm a landlord and I see that, I could start charging more for rent because I see that people are making more money.
but you'll get priced out pretty quick in Shadron.
So,
But I
well,
get what you mean.
I mean, you get what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
you get the idea. The premise is that if businesses and stuff like that across the board see that people are making more money, it makes sense that they can increase their prices because they see that people have more money. And like, I understand what he's trying to propose in a solution, but it's just a case of where does the money come from for it? How do you justify
Right.
it? Like, that's
And
the thing. Like,
right. And that's why I really do think that Nebraska fought so hard to not raise minimum wage. And I agree. Minimum wage, the best way that they did it in Montana when I was living there, minimum wage was like $9. I made 14.50 an hour at Wendy's, and I was doing just fine with that because competitive wage was put forth. That $9 an hour is for the mom and pop in small town Montana, that's all they can bring to the table. Those companies deserve to exist. And
yeah,
I really, again, if we are making 15 an hour, when I was in high school, okay, I remember Baltimore County was hiring 15 an hour, and a friend of mine, he bought his own car because he was making $15 an hour. He was doing really good. And now 15, is the bottom in a lot of states.
15's the new 7. 7.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
the problem. That's the
Yeah.
problem. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
We have never talked about how we can get our cost of living readjusted so that we can take the band-aid off of the bullet wound. We can stop raising minimum wage. You can pay these fuckers $50 an hour. They're still not going to want to show up to work. So stop paying them. Or even better, do it in a system where we can feel some respect. Okay, how about the 16-year-old kids? How about you pay them the national minimum wage of 7.25? That's all they need. You want to start paying 15, 20 bucks an hour to the adults that have bills? Be my guest. But I will be damned if I'm making $20 an hour and my coworker is a 16-year-old. No, because again, what does that do? How much do you have to make to feel like you're ahead? Would you have to make 40 an hour? Where the fuck are you going to do that? If minimum wage is going up, are those other jobs competitively paying, or are you just leaving or because you're supposed to leave McDonald's and get more money. If you already make 15 at McDonald's and you get 17 at your office job, that's a kick in the nuts. And it's really getting to the point now where Bernie, I respect everything that you're saying, but I do think that a lot of people vehemently disagree with raising minimum wage. It is not the answer. Our cost of living and our inflation, our economy, the fact that we need jobs that aren't focused on paying minimally. If you say this is what you have to pay, then of course that's what they're legally going to pay. But that's also all they're going to pay. That's the roof. They're only going to pay you 15. They're not going to pay you anymore. If we have okay, so what I'm really trying to say here is we should promote competitive wages. Okay, we should really have manufacturing in our country. We should have actual palatable careers that don't involve 4-year degrees. So many things that go beyond. Look, McDonald's is not. We are paying our bills with McDonald's because we have no other fucking choice. If these people could be in a factory, I'm pretty sure they would be there and not at fucking McDonald's, Bernie.
Yeah, I agree. We need to, like, yeah, that's what, like, also on top of that, like, when you're a 16-year-old kid and you're getting that little money, you learn how to pinch your pennies. You learn how to save. you learn at a younger age how to be fiscally responsible. So when the time comes that you're out there in the world, you know how to pinch your pennies even more. If I'm handing this 16-year-old kid like 20 an hour and they've like been there for like 3 weeks, meanwhile you've got a guy who's been there for like 5 years and he's making the same, it's discouraging, and that's just going to make people want to go.
Right.
Whereas if the guy who's been there for 5 years makes 20, makes sense. I'm
But
on
you
board with that.
yeah, but you know what else? There's also a level of respect. And
Yeah,
I feel like when you hear that someone makes, high double digits like that, 20 an hour, I feel like there should be a certain caliber to the nature of the job. And being a retail cashier it's just not one of them. It's just not.
yeah, and believe me, there are people thinking that when I worked at Walmart, I should have made 15 an hour doing that, and I told people that there is no amount that you could pay me to do that job, because there's not only is there so much respect you're going to get for that, and I'm not demanding all the respect in the world because I push buggies around. It doesn't matter how good I did with that job. It's just that, how do you grow as a person if you have limited responsibilities, if you have limited, you can't grow, and you can't become a better person. You can't grow if the environment around you is too limited for you to do so. That's why you leave and move on to bigger and better things above and beyond, so you can grow more as a person. And
Yeah.
increased pay also comes with increased responsibility. If you're
Yeah.
increasing my pay and my responsibilities stay the same, what do I gain from that?
Right. And also, too, you got to look at it this way, okay? I don't know where this 15 number came from. We just plucked it out of our ass in like 2012 as an excuse to not want to come to work. So you demand to be paid 15 instead of earning it, instead of working for it. You decided you were already going to half-ass your job at McDonald's anyway. Then you decided to protest. I mean, look, I have no issue with minimum wage being higher. I make minimum wage, and if minimum wage was 7.25 right now, I'd be fucked. Okay, I'm not saying that I don't benefit from minimum wage, but what I really want to know is, when is it that we have enough? Because if we don't address it now, how high does the minimum wage have to go up before we decide that we are making enough money?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like I don't know when the cap would be, because if you like, that's the thing. You give someone an inch and they go a mile. And that's not me trying to take a shot at Bernie. I understand. Like, there's this
You're not
saying of
supposed to make a lot of money at the fucking Dollar Tree, Bernie. There's a
no,
reason that old women work there. That's
no.
not a job that's high paying on
It
purpose.
it's also whenever you ask these guys where does the money come from, they say, well, the business fronts them. And I'm glad you brought up mom and pop shops, because it's just like, sure, Walmart might have that money to front to increase the wage for their employees. They've got the money that they're sitting on for that. But family run businesses, the mom and pop shops, your local stores might not have that hoard of fucking money that they're sitting on to do that. So they're offering
Right.
people what they can for that position. And if they can increase it by slight margin, they try, because you want to incentivize people to stick around. But if you're
Right.
fucking over the business in the process, the, the worst case scenario is if you're going to increase the wage to the point where some businesses have to shut down because they can't keep up with paying their employees. They, in between paying their employees, paying all the bills to keep their business ran, keeping up with all the safety codes and everything to maintain upkeep the business, it's the old adage. If I run a company and I make $1 million in a month, do I keep that 1 million? Obviously not. I have to subtract my costs because I want to keep my workers around, and I want to make sure that I can legally run my business and everything in between.
Right, and also you're constantly improving the business too. You're looking for ways, and then the
Of course.
fact that I have heard people on the other side of the aisle say, we had a former acquaintance, um, who, when I was working in town, I used to work with him, and we were talking about small businesses and how, the same conversation. A lot of these mom and pops are not going to be able to afford $15 and $16 an hour. And he looked at me and said that if you can't pay a livable wage, you don't deserve to be in business. And that kind of also began to get the gears turning for me as to what all this is really about. All this, this pseudo socialism. Which, yes, our buddy Bernie is a socialist, and we got to keep that in mind as well.
Of course.
But the businesses are not obligated to pay you a livable wage. Like the concept of a wage being livable is subjective. Okay, they are supposed to pay you the wage that the job, what the market calls for. Now, if you believe that your skill set is worthy of being paid more, then you will be paid more. But I don't see the point in paying, unless if you are going to have no children at these jobs, unless if there is going to be a scale, as we were just saying earlier, where maybe there's a scale that minors are paid and there's a scale that adults are paid. And this mainly goes for kitchen work. Retail stores and things, I can't really speak for. A lot of that's old ladies, a lot of that is young kids.
Yes.
But if we're talking about specifically like McDonald's, making it, $28 an hour to work at McDonald's. All right, well, there should be a restaurant wage. Maybe not a minimum wage, because we don't want livable. Okay, what Bernie doesn't seem to understand is, if we're paycheck to paycheck now, okay, I'm 15 an hour, and thankfully, my wife makes a bit more than me, and we have a dual income, and we're able to, keep ourselves afloat. But let's say if we both suddenly made $20 an hour because that was new minimum wage. How long until $20 an hour equals paycheck to paycheck?
I don't think it'd be very long. There's another aspect to it too, is the negotiation aspect. When you go in for a job interview and they tell you how much an hour you're going to make, you have one of two options. One, you take the deal and you do the work. Or B, you try to negotiate for higher pay, or you try to, justify why you think you should get paid more. And if they say no, you go elsewhere and take the better deal. It's like when I left Walmart for the job that I have now, I was making $11.50 when I left Walmart. And for the job that I have now, I started off at 12 because I was able to negotiate that. They're like, "How much do you want to make?" And I was like, "I make $11.50 now. If you pay me 12, I'm on board." And they're like, "That's satisfiable for you?" I'm like, "Absolutely," because I would have to
That's
work
satisfiable. So they would have paid you more. It
if I
sounds
want.
like.
If I wanted to push that envelope, sure.
You could
But
have been a big shooter.
I could have, but here's the logic behind it. The game that I was playing, it took me it took me about it took me every year when I was working there, you got a dime raise.
Where at Walmart?
Yeah,
A
you would
dime?
they would give you a dime. They would give you the shitty fucking performance review, which is effectively, let me demonstrate what the performance review is. Please take a seat, Mr. Cross. I'm going to tell you the 2 good things that you do at your job. I'm going to tell you the 70,000 shitty things that you do. I'm going to have you sign this piece of paper, give you your 10-cent raise, shake your hand. Now get the fuck out so I can have the next guy come in.
So you mean to tell me that my raise is less than $1 a day?
Yep. I'm not kidding.
No, okay, look, I may want to discuss this off the air, but if I were to ask for a raise, okay, I feel like a raise by default should be at least $2 by fucking default. Okay, we're adults. We're not teenagers here. We're talking actual fucking money.
Of course.
And you were going to sit here and say to me 10 cents?
Yep.
Motherfucker, you make $1 trillion a day. And you're going to tell me 10 cents. That fucking Walmart keeps the panhandle afloat. And they're going to give you 10 goddamn cents. I'm mad for you now.
Well,
You
no,
work
well,
there.
Well, no, but here's the beauty of it. When they try to hire me back, I told them, you
Tried
realize
to
that.
hire you back.
Oh, of course, no. But here's the beauty of why I tell people negotiation is key.
The
When they
GM
wanted
boss.
me to when they wanted me to come back, I told them, I'm making 12 now. I'm making 50 cents more. I tell you what, you pay me double what I get paid now, and I'll come back. And I knew that they were going to say no, and that was the point, because they couldn't make that negotiation or that concession for me. Because if they made that concession for me, they'd have to make it for other people. And
Right.
here's the sadder part. I got that 50 cents from the owner of the place I work for now in like 5 seconds. That negotiation was done there and then. If I wanted another 50-cent raise to my pay at Walmart, I had to work there for another 5 years.
So you couldn't just negotiate. You couldn't say, "Hey, if I'm coming back, you're giving me 50 cents."
Um, well, I wouldn't come back for just 50 cents. I told them, you
Well,
want me to
no.
come?
Well,
Right.
what I'm saying is that I'm saying, look, this guy is, look, fuck that place. But what I'm saying is
Oh,
that
I
this
get it.
guy is going to give you 50 cents. He would have probably have given you $15 right then and there if you asked for it.
If I did.
Walmart, you would have to work there until you're 90 to get $15.
My point is that this is why I tell people you got to know how to negotiate, the art of the deal, because could I have gotten more if I tried to negotiate for more? Sure. But if Walmart's gonna play the game of well, 10 cents adds up really quickly. Well, motherfucker, so does 50 cents if we're gonna play that game.
Right, and 10 cents
12
does
an
not add up. 10
12
cents
an
add
12
up.
an hour 12 an hour actually makes a difference versus 11.50 if we're gonna play that game.
Okay, look,
And
you
that's
know what? It's crazy. 10 cents. You know how much 10 cents adds up to?
how
You
much.
work a 40-hour work week, you get $4.
Of course.
I would say, you know what, motherfucker? And if the 10 cents you gave me, I would get $4 in a week. So if you, this is ballsy. I would say, so meet me in the middle, give me $2 more, fuck your 10 cents, and I'll come back. But honestly, Walmart, that's why there's like a million Walmarts because they're not paying. But apparently they were paying well for a while. They were hiring people at like $21 an hour for a bit, and
Oh,
now
yeah.
they're right back down to minimum wage again.
They dropped it during COVID. They had like a huge spike, especially around the holidays. Dude, every time I would go in there, the store
Why
manager,
doesn't why
the
doesn't
store,
Walmart just pay? They should pay fucking 25 as a default. It's Walmart.
all I'm saying is that there's this conception that comes with this whole like businesses are basically fucking people over. They're acting like these businesses show up to your front door. It's like they're acting like Walmart showed up to my front door and said, "We're going to pay you this much an hour. We don't care if you like it or not. You come with us." Rather than me walking in there and they say, "This is what we're going to pay you. Have at it." And it's like, okay, game on. And
Right, right, and I get it, and and part of me says what I just said. Walmart should absolutely be paying a lot more, not because I want minimum wage to be that high, but because if we were paying competitively, if we were paying, if we had any sort of method to pay where, and I guess this will probably get really shaky, but if your profit margin is here and your payroll is here, let's get that payroll to be, a little higher. But again, payroll can only be like maybe 30% of cost or 20% of cost. So because of that, you have no choice but to offer these nickel and dime raises to people. You have no money for it,
of
suddenly.
course, and no, that's why that's why I tell people sometimes you play by their terms. Like when I was told that 10 cents makes a huge difference, I shot back when I quit the place. I was like, well, you say 10 cents makes a difference. What does 50 cents make then? Makes a huge fucking difference at that point, right?
Right.
And I
And
and in
10
my
cents
time,
does not make 10 cents does not make
I
that
I
gets me so angry.
I get
Who
it. I
who said
believe
that to
me,
you? Tell me off the air who said that to you.
I'll tell you off the air. But I'll tell you, all right. But my point is, and the other thing is, the place that I work for now, I've had like 4 secret raises, and I've noticed that I've had these secret raises when I get my check, and I notice that there's an increase in pay, and I like that. I don't want to have to sit in some office and have them tell me that, You stared at someone inappropriate with your cross eye today, yada yada yada. Here's your 10 cents. Get the fuck out. It's just like it's just
Right. It's just you gradually make more money.
it's also
And
just respectful. What's the like the performance review is like that teacher in school that says that you do two nice things and then they tell you you're a fuck off, you're not going to amount to anything, that you got like several F's and you're going to end up in prison or just a bunch of wild shit, and then at the end of the day they're just like now why don't you go to lunch and have that pudding now? You're just like, you fucking you piece of shit.
have you ever seen, and I wish I could find it. I so wish I could find it. But have you ever seen the have you ever seen the Wendy's thing? It was where it was for employees. I forgot what region of Wendy's it was, but pretty much like for sales, you could get like up to like 25 cents of a raise, but it was starting at a nickel. And for everything that you did, it went up a couple of cents. And it was presented on this poster like it was the greatest offer that you're ever going to receive working for the company, and it's pathetic. What they do is they try to. I don't think a 17-year-old gets even like how little 25-cent raise an hour is. It doesn't mean diddly shit, but they do that. I don't know if it's to be insulting or if it's to just I'm not sure what it is. I'm not
Well,
sure what you
well,
bring someone into a room and tell them they have 10 more cents. I just can't wrap my mind around that.
well, for the 17-year-old, and I could understand it for the teenagers more because most of the time they're living with their parents and they don't have to worry about, certain bills and whatnot because they're still living with their folks. But what's the point of doing it to someone who's like 20, 21, 22? I can't tell you what the point of it is. I'm not a child. What are you scolding me like I'm a child for? And then like it doesn't like, if you're gonna put me through this motherfucking for 10 cents, I'd rather just have you speed run it. Get to the crucial
Right.
stuff, cut the fluff, and just fucking let me go back out
Yeah.
there to have just yeah, it's
I remember I got a raise at a job I had in Shadron. And the guy he was like, oh, we're going to put 25 more cents on your paycheck and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll make a few dollars more a day. I mean, 25 cents. It's a waste of time. Like, I'm
hey,
at the age
hey,
now.
20. Hey, I would have taken 25, asshole. It gave me 10.
Hey, dude, I took 25. I was happy with
Of
25.
course, I'd be happy too if they gave me
And,
25.
and you know what cheapskate son of a bitch gave it to me too. You know
Oh, of
exactly what
course
I'm
they
talking
do.
about.
Oh, absolutely.
Old funky Cole Medina.
uh,
Oh man.
yeah.
But the point right, exactly. Well, your old boss, who this is getting way too inside baseball, but who has
Of
me
course.
blocked. He was offering you 10 cents. But I think that's Walmart that was saying, "Hey, you know how it's like negative 20 degrees up on that hill and you wear shorts every day? Here's a dime."
Save up enough of those dimes and you might be able to buy some shoes from this store.
Well, Jim, so with all the money that you're making now, have you been able to, kind of turn this into pussy or anything? Or, like,
I mean, I mean, not to sound facetious, but a little bit.
a little bit,
A
a
little.
little.
I mean, but my point is that
But
uh,
what I'm,
I've yet to do my actual rant that I'm supposed to do too. We're fuck. Can I actually do that now? I have
yes,
a
yes, yes,
okay.
because
Okay.
I lost I was trying to change the topic and I was just I was being an asshole.
Yeah, I
But
know
yeah,
you were. You
you go ahead and,
cocksucker. All right, but on a more back on to a more serious note. You I'll tell people I actually didn't vote in the last 3 elections. I've been eligible to vote since I was since 2016. I didn't vote in 2016 because I was 20 at the time. I didn't know fuck all. I knew a little bit about Hillary Clinton, but the only thing I knew about Trump back in 2016 was, oh hey, it's that guy from Home Alone 2, because that's all that I knew about the guy.
You know about The Apprentice or anything?
I didn't know about The
It's that
Apprentice.
guy from Home Alone 2. Oh, that's
That
fantastic.
was the first thing that went to my mind. I was just like, hey, that's the guy that said to Kevin down the hall to the right. That's all that I remembered.
Right. Yeah, that
And
was
I'm
it.
hearing shit
Yeah.
like I'm hearing stuff like he's grabbing people by the pussy and all this other stuff, and I'm like, whoa, whoa. I'm like, is this the same guy? This is the same guy that showed Kevin McAllister where to go in that hotel in New York.
Well,
So,
yeah, he was leading them right to him.
but yeah, no. So I spent the 4 years doing research. In the time that I did research between 2016 to 2020, I made some evaluations and some assertions. The first assertion that I made was that Gary Johnson isn't really representative of the Libertarian Party in the way that people think, because I've spoken to libertarians, and as a matter of fact, a good chunk of my economic policies are very libertarian right. That's something I never thought I was going to say, because the way that I've been told is that, well, libertarian is the side clown show for politics, and it's just like, I don't know. Libertarianism to a degree is looking a lot more sensible, especially compared to the fucking to the left, especially where they're at now.
Right.
But between 2016 and 2020, all that I gathered is that Orange Man bad. That's where a lot of the nasty rhetoric was starting to begin. And then we hit 2020, and then Biden gets into office, and like, okay, we'll see how the next 4 years play out. And then the journey between 2020 to 2024 play out. And I didn't vote in 2020 either, just because I wouldn't. And I'm not afraid to say this. I don't hate Trump. I don't have that disdain for him that left-leaning people do. But not enough of his policies got me on board. And that's, if I had to vote for him, I don't know. There was not enough policies for me there to just go with it. But I will say this now. I don't know how me and other non-voters are now the target for the viciousness of the left. I've had 3 people this week. One person that I'm good with, but they were like, well, local elections exist. All this other stuff exists, right? It's like, I do, but the workplace was talking about Kamala and Trump. So I don't know why you think I'd be talking about the election shit in Dawes County when everyone else here is talking about.
And Dawes County is a mail-in only county too, which makes
Well,
it
on top,
really difficult to
well, on top of that,
vote.
for the local level in Chadron, the population is like somewhere between 5,000 and like 5,500, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Does
Guess how many
anybody
people?
really give a fuck who the mayor of Chadron
Hold
is?
on, hold on,
Anyone
but
care?
hold on. But my point is, guess how many people voted? Just take a guess. If you
In
had to-
Chadron, with the population, and look, this is on a good day. The population is 5,000. It's probably closer to about maybe 4,500 tops. Most of them are children. Most of them, the older folks that even bother to vote to begin with. I would say maybe a cool 1,000 of the entire town voted.
it
Maybe
was
500 people.
it
Maybe 500 people.
it was 1,100. You were 100 off. That's how many people voted. It was
Because
1,100.
most of the town are children, most of the town are old folk, and the one thing I do miss about Nebraska so much is that the whole state is red, even though that a lot of people are live and let live. I think people are red for agricultural reasons and economic reasons, quite frankly, but people are so live and let live there that they don't allow a D or an R in the parentheticals get in the way of enjoying each other. They never have. And I said this to people, small town Nebraska, I have told people this so many times. The vast population of international students, the fact that not only are people of color coming from all over the world and they are attending college, they are out at the bars. they get jobs in the town. They enjoy themselves, and I think for the most part they do feel comfortable, and people are inviting to them in an environment that you would never expect. And I do believe that in the heart of a lot of Nebraskans, they want three things. They want the simplicity, they want the modesty, they want the secludedness, and they also want the graciousness and the happy-go-lucky spirit of the state to remain. And I think by doing that, they lean towards traditional values. They lean towards who's going to understand the agriculture and their way of life, who's going to understand their principles, and that is inherently Republican. But all of the other, oh, they're transphobic or they're homophobic or this or that. I genuinely don't remember most people in Shattered having any benevolence towards any group of people at all. They just don't give a fuck as to vote. That their voice doesn't matter. They live in the smallest county in one of the smallest states in the country. All they're trying to do is pay their bills and make their way.
Yeah.
And I mean, quite frankly, what was the local like? Did anybody in Doss County run for anything on the ballot? Was it?
I honestly, I can't really remember. I looked at it for 5 seconds and I couldn't even be. The point of what I'm saying is that now me as a non-voter and other non-voters who I don't know why you've targeted the non-voters. Maybe you can ask them why they didn't vote. And I accept as a non-voter, I can't bitch about where the economy goes and shit like that. I didn't put a vote in,
Who would you have taken?
In this election,
Trump or Kamala in
if I
hindsight?
had
Who would
to,
you would have bubbled with?
I would have taken Trump if I had to. Just because
Right.
Kamala.
So there you go.
Well, let me. I'm gonna get to that.
Okay.
But when you're telling me that because I didn't vote, that is somehow a vote for Trump, don't ask me how that math makes sense. And because I didn't
A
vote,
vote for Jill Stein is a vote for Trump in that matter.
well, and that's my thing is now you're saying that non-voters are just, and believe me, non-voters are apparently uneducated. We're apparently pretty much all the hate that Trump supporters got, people like me are getting. So now I have to say this, and I'm going to say this now. If in 4 years JD Vance runs for the presidency for this country, I'm voting red. I've had enough. I've had enough. I've had it. For a party that screams that they're the fucking good guys, but have to run around and say that anyone who didn't vote for them is a misogynist, is a racist, is a Nazi, a xenophobe, all these fucking disgusting things. And then the Democrats are blaming everybody but themselves. And then I got to hear how Kamala ran a smooth campaign and nothing went wrong. Oh, people didn't want a black man. Yet Obama got voted in twice. And
she ran a smooth campaign. She had Cardi B and Sexy Red and all of these bozo celebrities on stage reading off of their iPhones. They had to have a scripted thing for them because they had nothing to genuinely say about this woman. And we're supposed to believe that she has friends and that she's hobnobbing with these people?
My point is that I don't buy the race thing because I don't agree with all of Obama's policies, but Obama's doing something right to get voted in twice. Maybe because he was actually qualified and he actually had fucking experience. And yet again, I'm not trying to simp for the guy. I'm just pointing out that there was something in his platform, in his base, that made the people vote for him twice in mass. No, like it just, and then on top of that, this whole, well, you guys didn't want a woman in there. I would have voted for Tulsi if she was still a part of the Democratic Party. But you fuckers were just like, let's just throw in old man fucking Joe. He's a better choice than Tulsi fucking Gabbard, who it's. So you can't blame it on I didn't want a woman. No, the woman I would have voted for left your fucking party because of how shit it's become. All the traditional, sensible, left-leaning people have left. And what you have left is, and I believe too, that the problem is that maybe the radical left are the minority of the party, but the problem is that despite them being the minority, they have hijacked the party, and they have a mass of people, half of the country, backing their play. So anyone else who isn't a part of that machine, that propaganda machine, is all of the disgusting things. And now you're going after people like me who didn't vote because I read all the policies, and I sat there and I weighed my options, and I just said, I don't think any of these candidates are for me. And I shouldn't have to vote if I don't feel like any of these candidates are for me. And if you're going to go after my reasoning for not voting, some of you motherfuckers voted for Kamala because Orange Man mad. And you did the same thing in 2016. And there were people in 2020 who voted for Biden because they didn't want Trump. And they're like, Biden's a bad choice, but we're going to vote for him because Trump bad. But yeah, I could lay out all the reasons why I didn't want to vote for either of the candidates. What was Kamala's campaign? What did she do, man? As a matter of fact, you didn't know what her policies were until about 2 weeks, roughly around that time before.
And then what was so what was so rich,
insane.
one of her policies, by the way, was creating affordable gasoline and groceries. So we're being
Huh.
led to believe that Joe couldn't have figured out within the 4 years that he had how to handle the gasoline and groceries problem.
Wait, hold on.
But she was going to slide right in and take care of it.
Hold on. I can't vote for her then because she's running off of the economy meth. Some streamer named Destiny said that.
Right, she's voting. Right, she's running off. Right,
She's running off
economy.
the mythical. That's what it is, and God, man. Like that's the problem, man.
Oh my goodness! What's
My
so
point-
crazy though is that he posed the question. He posed the honest question. Because Piers Morgan simply asked him, "Are you going to consider changing course now?" And he said, "Well, have the Republicans ever changed course?" And no, we haven't. Or I should say, they haven't. I'm not necessarily, a part of either side. But the point that I'm trying to get at here is, I'm interested in seeing what actually comes out of all of this. I'm interested in seeing if the Democrats change course, if there is any truth to whether or not any of this election crap in 2016 happened. And even better yet, Jimmy, the question that I have for you as a non-voter:
Yes, sir.
why exactly does it now fall on your back that you didn't vote for this person, or the non-voters? Is your one vote for, because it wasn't going to be for Kamala, okay? So if you were to go out and vote for Trump anyway, he still would have won. And let's just say you would have been more compelled to vote for Kamala Harris, okay? What would have, if you were looking for a Democratic leader, what I feel like, shouldn't you be, with that 106 days that you have, shouldn't you be very clear, not speaking in soliloquy and all the goofy bullshit she was doing and talking about how bad Trump is and he doesn't talk it the way he walks it and all of this crap, all this filler? She had 106 days to make people like you decide whether, what side you're going to go on, if any side at all.
Of course.
And she gave nothing. She was vapid.
It was empty. There was nothing there. And you want to know what the sadder thing is? Had Kamala won, they wouldn't have given a shit about people like me. Because the sad thing is that if Kamala had won, that I forgot the name of the fucking the other irony I have to point out too is that we're talking about all these racist white guys within the Conservative Party, and I can imagine there are some racist people in the Conservative Party because it turns out that evil isn't a one-sided thing. But what I got from this is I forgot the name of the fucking, because a lot of these mainstream media left-leaning fucking types have a lot of these old white dudes of all people saying shit like, oh, the reason why Latinos and blacks didn't vote for Kamala is because they're internalizing fucking misogyny. But that motherfucker isn't racist because go blue. Like, are you like my point is
Right.
that my point is that I'll answer this question. I doubt Piers Morgan will see this, but I'll answer this question that Destiny, for his infinite wisdom, was unable to answer. Yeah, Piers Morgan, I think Democrats should change course. I think one of the first things they should do is stop driving people into the arms of the right. You're mad that we're confused. This is a landslide victory. You're pushing people into the arms of the right. You're starting to push non-voters like me, who don't have a particular bias, into the position of one party. Because it turns out that people
And
on
you've
the
been
right,
saying this for years, as a matter of fact.
because it turns out that people on the right don't give a fuck if I vote or not. They care when I do that I'm voting based on policy and merit, and not the DEI fucking shit. That I'm voting on what I feel is not only good for me, but is going to be good for the country. They don't give a shit. Like, I know people, like, it's just, that's my thing. It's not, and I know that people are going to think that I'm trying to be a fence sitter, and I'm not. It's not a matter of being a fence sitter. A fence sitter would just say both sides are correct. It's more or less, I'm not afraid to criticize both sides. There were flaws within Trump's campaign. Now, I know that you don't like him as a provocateur to a degree, and I understand that. I personally enjoyed him being a provocateur because politicians don't know how to handle provocateurs. Most of the time, if you're a provocateur in a politician's audience, they'll just have you thrown out. They'll just have security wrestle you out. If you're debating with another guy who's running for a spot as a provocateur, you can't just have your security take him and throw him out. You're going to have to deal with that on stage. And it turns out a lot of those guys couldn't do it. It just, like, that was the thing. And I respect people who speak their mind and tell it as it is, provided I wish that Trump could filter certain things a little better. But that's
Yeah.
why I like it. But that's why
I'm not
it.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the name calling. I'm not a big fan of, having nicknames for people. And look, it as funny as it can be for him to go, "Oh, that show sucks. They have no ratings, blah 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 blah." I think less gimmickry this time around would be very much a breath of fresh air. I It never sat well with me the way that he mocked the reporter. It just, and doing the whole limp wrist thing and everything. I mean, look, there were a lot of things, and that was before he was president. But my point is, there were things that Trump. There were a lot of mistakes, and there were a lot of impulses that Trump made that first time around. That I really hope this time he watches his p's and q's on. That's my biggest criticism.
I guess this is the second part of the rant, and I'll try to make this section a little quicker. This is to sort of tie into the 4B movement. You now have a part of this party now who are having individuals that are coming out and saying that they're going to be full on misandrous. They're now encouraging misandry. And my question is that you can no longer say you're the good guys to me. If you think the solution to fighting misogyny is to be misandrist, you are on the same level of evil as those guys, except you think you're righteous because you don't think it's evil. You think, and that's just the end of it. You like the same logic that I could use to deal with misogynists, I can use to deal with you. And my question is, why would I vote for a party who's not only abandoned the working class, but seems to take people like me who really didn't have a particular dog in a fight? Sure, I've had my opinions on both sides, and I think for the most part, I try to be as well spoken as I can. Because it turns out you don't need a fucking college education to be well read. It turns out there are lots of books, and there's a plethora of wealth of information out there. You have to go out there and just fucking seek it. My point is that on the upcoming election, I don't know if I'll become full on Republican, but if someone like JD Vance is running, I'm going to vote red. And I know people who probably see this video that knows me, that pisses me off. It's just like, what do you want me to do? I've done nothing to you, and you've talked nothing but fucking shit. And you've made me seem like I'm some evil person. Oh, you didn't vote for Kamala because you want to be a white guy that's back on top. I would prefer everyone. I want everyone to succeed. I want everyone to get ahead. I'm not into this whole faction fucking business. I don't like the whole tribalism and division shit. I prefer things to be united. But how do you have a united front if you got one party that's full of so much vitriol, hatred, spite, and all that, that's insisted on things being divided. And now you got a section of it who's also exclusively against men. And I don't agree with everything within the Party, but I bet you if I tell people I'm going to go vote for this party and I have my disagreements and my concessions, and sure, I'll come across some crazies. You got extreme Trump supporters, and I'm not talking about the middle of the road sane ones. You got the Trump supporters that treat Trump like he's God, like he is Lord Trump, and everything he says is fucking gospel. But I suppose you got people on the left that thinks that Kamala was the gospel too. But the point still stands that you are now making it to where I have to make a choice, and unless a libertarian right candidate fucking rises from the ashes and provides a solid enough platform for me to take and run with, I might vote red, because what else am I supposed to do?
And right, and that's the thing that I have kind of gotten to, is the fact of how much, like, they call Elon Musk, they called him, what did they say? He was a proprietor of misinformation.
And he was like,
Um
democracy.
right, and they do all this, but yet they literally go out of their way to make sure that they mischaracterize everything that Donald Trump says.
Oh yeah. Also,
They do it every single time.
Oh yeah. Also, me and you are both are fascists because we watch Joe Rogan, and it's just
Who is a liberal, for fuck's sake? I mean,
yeah.
all of this stuff, honestly, the biggest reason that I think I went away is because I began thinking to myself, and this could be an overgeneralization, but I'll be very honest. I had looked around at the women who were more left leaning, and I thought to myself, well, who could I envision my wife being? Could I envision her being, one of these crazy fucking lefties, or would I want a down to earth woman who doesn't see pregnancy as a death threat and all this fucking nonsense? For me, also, which is different from you, I would like to be a practicing Catholic and have it not be the punchline of every fucking joke, and not have to sit here and deal with priest jokes and all this kind of shit. But I am Islamophobic because I don't agree with what we're doing with our efforts in Gaza. There were so many little things that got me to just really think about what is happening, and who I'm going to vote for. And it's not just the condescending nature of, well, I thought you were a smart person, or I thought you had a good heart, and I thought that you were on the up and up, but I guess I was wrong because you don't see my side. That was pushing me. But once Kamala told those guys that if you were going to say Jesus is Lord, that you don't belong here, that was all that I needed. And I think, Jimmy, that's all that a lot of people who keep their religion to themselves needed, to not want to be on her side either.
Well, and take and talk, and you know what? And I don't think I've opened up much about this, but when I tell people I'm an atheist to a degree, I when I say I'm an atheist, I say it in the sense that I'm skeptical. I don't deny that there could be a higher authority or some higher deity out there, but I'm not sure if they exist either. And the reason why I make that distinction is because you got a lot of people on the left who aren't really atheists. They're just anti whatever religion the right is, because when you're an atheist, you're skeptical of all of it, Islam included. But what I see with a lot of these pretenders, as I like to call them, they pretend to be atheists, but they're all in favor of Islam, but Catholicism, Christianity, pretty much every religion that's right leaning or is not in the left leaning sphere, um, just say that, oh, you're waiting for your imaginary sky daddy and stuff like that. It's like, motherfucker, you're supporting a religion that has gays being thrown off of roofs. Shut the fuck up, man.
Right. Like, okay, so I am supporting a religion based off of a man who archaeologically there is proof that he did live and die in Jesus Christ, who says, take a wife, love her, honor her, cherish her, procreate, have kids, love your family, and join me in the kingdom of heaven upon death. You're telling me that that's the laughing stock, that that's what we should be doing away with. That this is this archaic sort of behavior, and that we're all weirdos and all this shit. By the way, JD Vance, okay, Catholic VP, just fucking putting that out there. My point being is, you are going to tell me that by me wanting to have a traditional life and fight for that life, and not because I have subsidies, not because I'm getting $6,000 from the government to have a child, not because a minimum wage is $40 an hour, but because we fought hard to have a feasible America for our kids, many of which that are either infants or not alive yet, and we want this foundation. You're telling me that's weird, but yet I am supposed to allow. I'm supposed to accept that drag queens in libraries aren't weird. I'm supposed to accept that a country, in like Afghanistan, for an example, who now has illegalized women speaking in public to each other. I'm supposed to accept these things as the right way to go, just because it's a minority religion. Is that what's happening here? Like, I'm really confused.
My my thing is that my other thing is that I've accepted that we all are trying to get to the top of the golden hill, and we have different ways we want to get there. If you want to use religion as a way to guide you with a set of you know you know like we all live by a code. We all live by some code, something that guides us, like morally, legally, all of that. We have something that guides us. And if religion is that case for some people, that is fine. But whether we like it or not, we all follow some code. My thing is, and I'm glad you brought up the whole the priest and the pastor shit, because when you bring up the literal child abuse that happens within the left leaning sphere, they instantly point to the shit within the churches. And don't get me wrong, there's shit going on within the churches, but there's two issues wrong when you do that. For starters, I think people on the right acknowledge that there are fucked up things going on within the church. And when they find out there's a fucked up individual,
Right.
it gets
And
dealt with.
also, when they bring up the Catholics, they do it with vitriol because they don't
Of course.
respect us, and they bring up these outdated John Jay papers from 2006, and we've done a lot of cleaning up. A lot of the young priests, I follow these guys on Instagram. They're good guys. They don't come across as creepy or as malicious in any way. I really do believe that there are a lot of people who want to just spread the gospel and just want to be loving and caring people. And you know what? If you would rather not go to church, maybe if you want to listen to your religious music, but you want to stay out of the congregation, or you're like yourself, where you're skeptic and you may have your own personal pathway to do to look at things. In no way should that be connected to your political party.
No.
But if one political party is telling you that you belong at a different rally because you think that killing babies for sport is wrong, then maybe I have no reason to be at this rally. If you're telling me that I can't be a married man at this rally, if you're telling me that if you are breaking down every piece, the fact that Kamala did not visit the Midwest once outside of swing states in Iowa and Wisconsin, like all of these things show you exactly how she feels, exactly who their base is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why she did not win one county anywhere in this country. One county.
I guess I'll end it off with this. You've known me for years. You know where I don't know if I was maybe I was a little more left leaning in some areas, but I could tell you from the age of 20, I don't think I was really in favor of one party. I just could say that I didn't know any better. I won't say necessarily ignorant. I had an understanding of how political parties had functioned historically up to that point. What I wasn't prepared for was the amount of misinformation, misconstruing, and the way that history got bent and turned, and just the way that things were just presented to me. And I just, I've reached a point to where this, like, I knew at some point or another I was gonna have to start voting on some level, and I figured I'd give it some time and see where I'm at. But if I got a party that's just saying that I'm all of these shitty things and I should just go vote for this party, if you're telling me I'm all these evil things anyway, and voting for this party already makes me evil. It's just like, what do I have to lose? And on top of that, I wasn't really sure. I'll poke fun at the left, but I also poke fun at the right. I'm the type of guy that no one is off the table. I poke fun at myself. But if we're gonna get to this point to where you're just gonna you're just gonna push people away and push them in one direction, if someone like JD Vance runs for president, and I most certainly hope he does, he's going to have my vote. And it's not because I'm trying to be spiteful. It's just that unless there's a second coming, which I don't know, I don't think 4 years is going to be enough to repair the damage in the last 8 that's been done with all the vicious and reprehensible rhetoric that's been spewed. And it's saddening to say, man. I don't like to be that guy that's just saying I'm going to pick one party over the other, but at the moment I don't really have a choice. And I don't like having my hand forced like that. I don't like when my hand is forced. I like to be the type of person that when I make a choice, I sit there and I freely make it. That's why I've been a non-voter for the last 3 elections. The first one was just because I didn't know any better, and the latter 2 was because there wasn't a candidate
Yeah.
that I felt was suited for me enough. But
In 2016, I was just getting to campus. It was my first semester. I was across the country.
yeah,
The last thing I was very concerned about, I knew an election was happening. More or less, I had a good feeling in 2015 that we were getting Donald Trump in office anyway. It was look, I was as liberal as I was at the time. I feel like I immediately was like, okay, Trump won. It's probably way better than Hillary. And then I started to not like Trump. And again, I had never voted for a president until this election. And look, I really don't like this guy. But I hope that the fear mongering and things that are going on with Product 2025, and we're going to be put in camps, and gays are blah 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 blah.
hands made tail and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I look, I really don't believe, quite frankly, I don't think Donald Trump really, or the people that are on his team, necessarily have any problem with what grown adults do. I think their biggest concern is the kids.
Yeah. And
And with that being said, okay, there is no rights that are flying. I just don't see these things happening. And you know, uh, I think really there's going to be a lot to take in. There's going to be a lot to wait and see. But what I want to make very clear to everyone in closing, I have a lot of friends, or a lot of, I should say, people who were acquaintances of mine, uh, who are devastated by these results. People who have unfriended me because of these results. Um, and look, I can completely understand if you feel as if you've been listening to everything that's been going on, and Project 2025 and all this other stuff, and you have a genuine belief that your life is about to be taken away from you, that you're going to have this substandard sense of living, and that there are people who don't think that you should be alive because of it, then that's disgusting. That's heinous. That's incredibly unfortunate. But legislatively, I really do not see anything happening to trans adults, to those who are old enough to make their own decisions. I don't see anything happening to gay marriage. I surely shit don't see anything happening to interracial
Racial
marriage.
marriage.
I don't see, especially look, especially. I mean, I can only speak for for what I have seen from laws that were passed, the legislation that was passed, as red as everything was. I don't think there was one law passed taking contraceptives or Plan B or any of this stuff off the shelves.
Yeah, it's just I'm gonna close out with this too, and then if you want to just give like an epilogue, that's fine. All I'm gonna say is that I too have friends that are, incredibly left leaning who are also not happy with these results, and if they find out that I didn't vote, probably aren't going to be happy with it either. And to which I say, if you decide to if you decide that our friendship ends because of that, I have to say the friendship wasn't that good to begin with, and I don't care how shitty that sounds. Like if that's what you attest and hold it to, and it's just I and I'm trying. I'm just trying to. The best way that I can put this is that if you want people to vote for your party again, you're going to have to stop, like I said, with the reprehensible rhetoric, the viciousness, the everything. And even then, if I don't know when will come a time where the nation overall is truly going to trust your party, because you have done so much damage to it, man. The amount of damage that you've done, the amount of people who have quite literally jumped ship. It's real. Like, if there's going to be a time in which me and you both live that we get to look back at, if we have kids and they ask what was the craziest time that we lived in politically, I think we could cite 2016 to 2028 would be
Yeah.
the craziest time to live, because I don't know if it can get somehow fucking crazier than this, which I doubt because Trump can't run again. So the mass hysteria will stop. So the years 2016 to 2028 would be the craziest political time to exist in our lifetimes, and I have to say I don't know. I don't know when it's going to be okay, but I know people aren't going to be happy that I didn't vote, into which I say I'm sorry. Unlike you who voted for based off of identity politics and stuff like that, I based my stuff off of policies and merit. I based off of,
Yeah.
you know,
And what I'm really hoping, and I get what you mean, policies and merit. And what I'm really hoping for, and I think we can close out on this, is I'm not interested in red waves or blue waves or any of this. And look, if we can be optimistic and say that Trump is a conduit to someone like a JD Vance, okay, or maybe he's the conduit to someone like an RFK, or someone who is not going to be a typical GOPer and actually have some much more centrist ideas, and maybe be able to meet Democrats in the middle and not be so combative. I really do want to see us be united through this presidency. I want to see him work extra hard to gain that trust, and then beyond that, I really want to see a lot less partyism and just focusing on what the general consensus of people are,
and
are talking about.
and if he does extend an olive branch, don't smack it out of his face. Take the olive branch. If he's offering you an invitation to be unified, take it. Don't smack that shit out of his face. Take it. It's better to work together to be divided. It's just I,
And it just sucks, and it really does. And I think at the end of the day, the people that are in our lives, when they are saying, if you voted for this man, never speak to me again, it's really unfortunate because you don't know if everyone feels that way or not. And I'm pretty sure there are people that you're kind of, I don't know if, again, you didn't vote. But I don't know if you're trepidatious or not of, kind of like starting some small talk with certain people that feel very strongly about Kamala, and you don't know if this is a deal breaker or not. It's very unfortunate. Um, but I think we'll close things out here. It was a good conversation tonight. Is there anything that you want to leave us with, Jim?
Um, I'm gonna get the Facebook page made. That's why I was asking for the banner earlier, so I could have that as like the
Okay, and I'll send it
background
to
thing.
you.
And the idea for that page is that we'll we'll try and post like episodes on there. In addition to YouTube, so we have multiple platforms we're gonna upload on. And if we have guests, like the idea is we're gonna try to have two, maybe three guests a month, and we can put who the upcoming guest is and what the topics are if we have any, or if it's just gonna be banter, we'll just put Jimmy, Johnny, and some random whoever the person is, and just say shooting the shit or mocking Boogie for X amount of minutes. Like that's all that it is. That's
And
pretty
I
much.
have some plans. I have some plans of what we are of what we're going to do as far as the potential of getting some people in.
Okay.
But we will discuss that at a later date. But yeah, I think that hopefully we get a chance to spice some of these shows up a bit.
Of course. And I think the break from politics after this will be nice until
Yes.
inauguration.
Yes, because honestly, I really don't find Trump all that interesting. Am I happy that he is president? I again, it's one of those things where I don't know if I'm necessarily happy
You're just
because
considering what the alternative is, and the
yes, I
alternative
mean
is
the
not
alternative to me would have been
Biden
horrible.
2.0.
And right, and if there is any chance that we see a Democrat that changes course, then that's fantastic. But I think for now, we're just gonna keep doing us. We're gonna bullshit a bit, try to see what platform fits best for us, and just try to build this as we go. And we're not going to be a political show because I sincerely, I'm exhausted. I would
I'm
much rather, bullshit about Stuttering John.
But no, I get what I guess what he's trying to say here is that we understand that it's important to talk about politics. We understand there's a necessity to it. But for those who aren't aware, given our positions and what it is, and pretty much where we stand is a very uncomfortable spot for us at times, because since we're not a part of one party or the other, or we don't have an incredible bias towards one side, um, if we're not taking fire from one side, and we're taking fire from both at times. But this time around, it seems like one side was they just pulled out a Gatling gun compared to the other side who may have whipped out a revolver. It's just like, well, shoot me in the kneecap with a revolver. At least I won't look like Swiss cheese after the other fucking guy unloads into me. Jesus Christ. And we all, and maybe we'll and we want to be able to just, this is a passion project, and we just want to be able to goof around and have fun. But we want to, when serious shit happens, like this election season, we wanted to be able to, give our input and kind of just try to keep up with it. That's all that it was.
Yeah, and I feel like that we have, but yeah, we're going to definitely move away from politics because there really is no need for it, and not to mention too, I have a lot of bits I would like to experiment with, and some different things that I would like us to do, some games I'd like us to play, and some things. So I think now, for the few people that do check us out here and there, I thank you, and I'm gonna begin splicing this into shorts at some point this week, and I'm gonna really try to extend the content But yeah, we're definitely not going to hyper focus on the Trump.
I also think with editing, maybe the individual rants that we gave, we try to maybe edit out certain sections of it as well, because I think
Yeah.
we both gave some pretty I think we both gave some pretty solid rants. I think we've sat on what we've had to think about for a bit.